Welcome to San Antonio's Influence Magazine show, the premier talk show where we introduce you to influential individuals doing significant work in the city of San Antonio and surrounding areas. Celebrate the spirit of business, leadership, and innovation. Welcome to San Antonio's Influence Magazine show. Today we have the great privilege of introducing the new president and CEO of LiftFund. We're all familiar with that organization, Miss Laurie Vignaud. Laurie is a New Orleans native. She earned an undergraduate degree from University of New Orleans and a graduate degree in banking from Southern Methodist University, also known as SMU. Laurie's professional executive leadership career has expanded more than 35 years. Please help me welcome Laurie to the show in the studio. Welcome to the show, Laurie.
Thank you so much for having me.
Good. So let's jump right in. We understand you're from the Crescent City, also known as New Orleans. And you earned an undergraduate degree in New Orleans as well.
I do.
So share with us, just kind of give us some details about what it's like growing up in a culturally rich society like that.
I often say born and raised New Orleans, that's always going to be home. They have a lot of similarities like San Antonio, believe it or not. I mean, very family oriented, the festivals, the food, the music, the neighborhoods, the community. It was a very safe place to grow up in because we were surrounded by family. My neighborhood, I had my grandmother, my cousins, my uncles, everybody lived within a 2-3 block radius of each other. So, I have such fond memories, and it's just an amazing city to grow up in.
It's a dynamic city, of course,
Yes,
with
it
all
is.
sorts of events going on all year round. And of course, you got Mardi Gras there.
Yeah, Mardi Gras,
And
Jazz
the
Heritage
New Orleans
Festival,
Saints.
Yeah, oh my God, let's talk about the Saints. We're winning.
That's a beautiful thing, isn't it?
Yeah.
So describe your background. First of all, if you could kind of break down your heritage, your nationality, and then your parents. Just talk to us a little bit about that.
I'm African American. I think in New Orleans, you may hear people classify as more like Creole. I often talk about New Orleans gumbo. Well, I'm one big gumbo. I mean, I have a little bit of everything. On my mom's side, there's Native American, there's Spanish, there's believe it or not, Russian and Asian on her side. On my mom's side, on my dad's side, there's Native American, there's French, Western French, there's African, so it's just a little bit of everything. Something about New Orleans and the neighborhoods, you had people from all over the world that kind of congregated there. We lived in the neighborhoods, and so families blended together. And so this is what happens. If you let America be, this might be what the rest of America could look like if you just let us all live together. So I think that happened in New Orleans, and we're an example for many.
You have siblings?
Yeah, I have 4 brothers, actually.
4 brothers.
I have a half brother who's older than I, and I have 3 brothers who are younger than myself. So only girl with a bunch of boys watching over me.
Wow. Okay.
Still.
They still protect you?
They still are very protective. I would venture to say that I have a brother calling me at least once or twice every week, just especially since I arrived here, to check to make sure everything is well.
Mm-hmm.
We're very close.
If you had the opportunity to interview the 10-year-old Laurie, if you can recall those years,
That was a long time ago.
what's changed about you, or what do you think you've kept the same and you're still kind of, that's still a part of your personality?
The 10-year-old Laurie was probably very introverted and quiet and incredibly shy. I grew up in a family where, it was very male dominated. So I always had my dad kind of guiding my path, my brothers protecting me, when I was out and about. So I kind of grew up in an environment where I always felt safe and secure, even as a kid. It wasn't until I got older that, after being married for a number of years, having 2 kids, and then getting a divorce, that you kind of I had a reality check where, now it's time for me to really understand the responsibilities associated with being independent, paying my bills, balancing my budget, etc. It sounds really naive of me, but because that was my world at the time, it was very eye-opening to see what others probably were doing on a day in and day out basis. And I'll tell you a quick story. I remember I was having a tough time working, 2 kids, having to deal with the anxiety and stress of paying my bills. And my mother looked at me one day and said, "Laurie, you're not the only one that's divorced with children. Get over it," you know? And it was moments like that that I've had throughout my time that kind of reminded me, you know, this is life. Life happens, you know, and the same way I'm able to bounce back from that. And, you know, there's other things that happen in life along the way that also had one of those aha moments for me to kind of like gather your wits and keep moving. You know, I didn't see that coming when I was 10 years old, but I'm so glad that I had it in me, you know, because of the kind of foundation my parents gave me that, you know, hey, you keep it going. You're not the only one in the world that's having a tough time. Get over yourself and make it work.
So you were prepared to handle adversity.
Yeah, I was,
what
and
you-
didn't realize it, you
Yeah,
know, I mean,
right.
but I grew up in a household where my dad worked a lot. My dad was a contractor. He worked 7 days a week. You know, he did his business. He was a plastering contractor. So he had his jobs during the day, and at night he liked buying property. And so at night and on weekends, he would go and fix up his property. So I always saw people working. I saw my mom supporting him and doing payroll and, you know, keeping the household going and keeping all of us kids in check, you know, so work never bothered me. And I always saw Dad just kind of like make his way. So, you know, I just kind of figured, okay, it's in my DNA. Let's make a way.
Mm-hmm.
That's what we do.
So how about you got a ton of accomplishments, lots of horsepower, Laurie. How about your accomplishments and all? Have they amazed you that you've achieved that you have thus far?
You know, I am often just humbled and incredibly honored that people have acknowledged me that way. I have always said, I want my work to speak for me. I never went into relationships or business asking for their business. I wanted to earn it. And so I have been working in this community development world ever since I started in my business, working for Liberty Bank, my first job in New Orleans, one of the largest African-American banks in the country now.
Yeah,
but
heard of it, absolutely.
Alden McDonald giving me my first job, working in the community, providing loans and for small businesses, African-American businesses, and then being recognized by a larger institution in New Orleans, Hibernia Bank, to come on and manage their affordable housing team. So I'm still doing affordable housing, building houses in the communities that we grew up in and that we wanted to revitalize. And then Capital One, you know, comes along, buys the bank, and next thing I know, I have the responsibility for doing community development banking across Louisiana and Texas. So I've always been immersed and recognized that, you know, the relationships with institutions, having access to capital, trying to build wealth, trying to rebuild our communities was all tied together. And it's a world that I've been in for a very long time, one that I am committed to. And when people say, "Oh, Laurie, you know, we're recognizing you for something," I'm like, but this is what we do. This is what we should do. This is, it doesn't seem like work to me. It just feels like my mission and what I'm supposed to be doing with my lifetime. Yeah.
So I think they call that a servant spirit.
Okay.
You know, you feel
Yeah.
given service to a community or a certain amount of people. Where'd you get that from, Mom or Dad?
Probably both. You know, on both sides. Now, I've seen my dad, believe it or not, and it wasn't until you're older when you kind of look back on your family and you think about, God, I didn't realize that's what Daddy was doing. My dad has actually helped people start businesses. I mean, he worked with plasterers and plumbers and contractors, and often he would talk to them like, why don't you start your own business? You can do this on the side, make more money. And then if they don't have a house, Dad's like, well, you need to save your money. Let me show you what you should do so you can get a house. And as my dad was buying property, he would either rent it or he would carry the mortgage. And so I was like, you know, but as a kid, you don't know that he's doing this. And as I get older, And we're talking about it. I'm like, oh my God. And I went into mortgage banking, not even realizing that my dad was someone who was providing someone an opportunity to get their first house. Now on my mom, because she was a stay-at-home, my mom always worked in the church. She always in the school. Voting rights, my mom would have a carpool taking people to register for voting, so there was always, and even to this day, she sends me little notes or articles and stuff reminding me, pay attention, get ready to vote or something, because what's happening in our community impacts all of us. It's not just one person. It's not just me. It's what I can do and impact someone else. And I often think, I've had so many blessings. I often think there is something to karma. When you open a door, when you do something nice for somebody, somehow it always comes back. And I call it divine intervention these days. But, I just think that, the people that I've been around and exposed to, and even with mentors and coaches, for whatever reason, I've met people who actually have been incredibly supportive of me and opened doors, and allowed me to continue doing what I enjoy doing. And along the way, I just kind of found myself here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nothing just happens,
Yeah.
That's a beautiful thing. So if there was one individual in your personal life and or your professional life who has been the greatest influence, who would that person be? It could be mom or dad, brother.
Well, personal, it would probably be my dad. Professionally, I've probably had 3 people that I have given credit for my career advancement. Alden McDonald is one, for getting me into the banking and teaching me how to do mortgage lending, which brought me to Willie Spears, who was my manager at Hibernia Bank, Capital One, that allowed me to take on more responsibility and really get quite a bit of visibility working for a national organization like Capital One. And then Dr. Case Lawal, who took a chance on me and allowed me to be his president and CEO of the only minority bank in Texas, headquartered in New Orleans, which was really something that I had always dreamed of doing, but he literally provided the opportunity for me to do it. And so when I think about, people who really was impactful for me, Dad taught me how to work and how to, keep pushing through.
The fundamentals.
Fundamentals, the foundation. But these 3 individuals really set me on my path for the career that I'm enjoying right now.
Yeah. None of us do it by ourselves.
No, we don't.
It takes a village at times.
It does.
We're having a conversation with Miss Laurie Vignaud. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the show, and we're here today with Miss Laurie Vignaud. Vignaud, you pronounce that right. It's a French last name, by the way. Welcome back, Laurie.
Thank you.
So first and foremost, let's congratulate you on your assignment or appointment as President and CEO of LiftFund.
Thank you.
And you come from a background of turning around financial institutions. We're CEO of a bank in Houston that was the largest African-American bank in Houston as well as Texas. Maybe kind of describe for us what you see as part of your new assignment here, and what can you bring from that experience to your new opportunity?
When I went to work for Unity, what was missing were relationships, establishing relationships with corporations and with other lending institutions to leverage the resources that we were lacking as a small African-American bank. And when you have limited capital, there's not much you can do with with advancing your resources or getting new bank products or opening up new branches, et cetera, or even hiring. There's such limitations. So at Unity, I was successful with building meaningful relationships with the Citibank, the Chase Bank, the Wells Bank, the Amagis, where they were actually investing capital into my Unity Bank, which allowed me to be able to create more products and services, hire, and also build on the bank's platform of being able to offer new products so that you can transfer money between accounts if you choose to. That actually has probably created an opportunity for me to do that even more here at LiftFund, where they spend a lot of time working with a lot of corporations and lenders, building relationships. I want to back up 1 second, because when I was at Capital One, my responsibility was making sure that the bank met their Community Reinvestment Act responsibilities, which basically means making sure that the bank was providing capital in communities where we were supposed to serve, low-income communities. And so when I was doing that, I actually was working with LiftFund. I had met Janie Barrera, and LiftFund was one of my partners, providing services to my small businesses who were not quite bankable at Capital One. So when I went to Unity, and Unity would sometimes have customers that we weren't quite ready for us to bank, LiftFund was a resource that I can offer my customers from that institution as well. So it's about the relationship.
Is that how you and Janie met?
Yeah.
Is that how you originally met her? Okay.
Yeah. Well, no, actually, I met her when Hibernia Bank first came into Texas, and it might have been around the early 2000s. So I've been knowing her for at least 20 plus years. And that's another thing where you kind of look at the circle of life and how, you go full circle with certain individuals and you never know where you're going to land, but it's at the right place. So I had met Janie. I understood her business model. We had worked together, and I think sometimes I was just in training the time that I was at Capital One and at Unity to prepare me for walking in the shoes of someone who established this amazing organization that was once just a San Antonio, Texas nonprofit that's now in 15 states with over 100 employees, serving everyone across the metro from small loans to very large loans, So it's just an exciting time for me. And it's definitely a huge leap from coming from a very small minority bank, which had the same mission and drive as LiftFund, but then being able to provide that service here in San Antonio, but across the footprint.
You're new to the position. How many months have you been on?
I want to say I'm probably about 69 days.
69 days. Okay. What's that? A little short of 3 months?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, a little bit. 90 days, right? It's 3 months. Yeah, but it's going by fast. It feels good.
Mm-hmm. Have you had an opportunity to really assess the work ahead, and what would be your number one priority?
Right now, my number one priority is meeting the partners, getting to know the staff, understanding the business model. I mean, we do the micro lending all the way up to 504s on SBA lending. So understanding the platform, I think I can do a really good job promoting the organization, that many people are aware of once I know the internal operations. And so I've been spending a lot of time doing that. Plus, there's a lot of partners. We're a nonprofit, so we require heavily on grants and other funding sources so that we can lend into the community. So I think a primary objective for me is to make sure that I know who those funders are, and I continue to share with them the impact that we're having and why it's so important to continue supporting an organization like LiftFund. Janie has certainly set the path for me. I just need to continue going down that path and build from there, because there's definitely an opportunity to grow LiftFund even more. The need is great, so
yeah, no doubt.
We want to be the entity for them.
Yeah. And more than banking, you're really in the relationship business, so Janie did blaze the trail with a lot of partners that are out there.
Yes, she did. Yes, she did. And I recognize, change could be a little uncomfortable when a new face comes along, but hopefully they will see that I'm just as committed and mission driven as Janie was and is and continues to be. And so the mission and the purpose of the organization is not going to change. I think that after 30 years, we want to be around another 30, 60, 90 years. This is about the longevity of this organization. And we want to make sure that it has everything that it needs and people know that we're here because helping small business is truly the foundation of our economy. And so we want to make sure that we're the entity that people go to and can rely on, for sure.
Yeah, that's fantastic. The backbone of America is the small business person, the entrepreneur. So for women professionals, there's not a lot of role models, although it's an emerging group, right? We're seeing a lot of women come into positions of power, certainly of influence and authority. What would so you're now not just a business professional, you're a role model. There's women that are watching you who aspire to be just like you. Any types of what would you share with them to maybe one day arrive at a certain junction like where you are today?
I would just say perseverance. Don't let anyone talk you out of your dream. And don't pass up opportunities when it presents itself. I have two daughters, as you know, both professional. They're both attorneys and they're building out their career. And throughout the entire process, all I've ever said to them was, just don't quit. You can always change your path if it's not exactly going where you want, but don't detour from what you want to do and what you want to be, because you only get to live this life once. It's truly your journey. And if you believe in something, don't set it aside. Don't wait. Don't let anyone talk you out of it, because often as women, we often think we have to wait for someone else, or maybe we're listening to opinions. And I'm not saying don't listen, but don't let it deter you. You're really able to do anything that you dream of. My mom never said there was something that I could not do if I wanted to. And even to this day, she's like, go, live your life, do what makes you happy. And often that can lead you in the direction that you're seeking. So it's so exciting to see so many young women and young professionals coming down the road. And I love talking with them. I like coaching and mentoring and being their cheerleader, because there wasn't a lot of women for me to go to. I named 3 men, African-American men, who really played a big role in providing opportunities for me. But now it's time for me and others like myself to make sure that we're opening up those doors and creating those opportunities for those coming behind us. So go for it.
You mentioned your dad was very influential in your life, perhaps even the most influential person. Sounds like maybe as a sideline hustle, he was doing mortgages and that sort of stuff. So he was already in the finance business. How did you choose this as a career?
That's a funny story. I was working for my husband when we decided to part ways, and I needed a job. And so Alden had given me my very first job in banking, and I saw him at an event and said, hey, I need a job. I need a job. And he said, come on, let's talk. This is what I'm doing. Come check it out. And so I ended up being hired as a mortgage loan originator, knowing absolutely nothing about originating a mortgage. But Alden was so patient. He knew that I had, the work ethic and the desire to learn.
And the skill set.
Right. To not give up. And took me 3 years to master it. And he will laugh to this day that I cried every day in his office because I was making so many mistakes. But I remember the day that they said, Laurie, a customer is going to walk in and you're going to know immediately whether or not you can do that transaction. And lo and behold, the day happened. And I was like, whoa, everybody, I know how to do this. And that career really was my trajectory to getting me to where I am right now. And it was by happenstance. Yeah. It's kind of weird. When I grew up, everybody, we got married. We stayed home. I was going to be like my mom. She was a stay at home, raise my kids, my husband work, provide. When life happens and we had to part ways, I wasn't quite prepared. But I had my village. We talked about that earlier. On a personal level, I had my village that supported me with my daughters. And I had somebody like Alden McDonald that gave me a chance to have a job.
Yeah.
And from there, everything else kind of fell into place.
Yeah.
But it was a journey, all right.
Some careers we choose, other careers choose us, right?
Yeah.
So,
and this one really chose me. I didn't see it coming.
Yeah.
And
That's,
look at it now. Yeah.
that's outstanding. So as president CEO of LiftFund, again, you kind of see your work ahead of you.
Mm-hmm.
What can we expect in terms of the future for the
For
firm?
LiftFund?
Sure.
I see a future of this amazing organization that's going to continue to be at the forefront of lending. We want to lead in the conversations on how to help small businesses be successful. I would love to see us be more involved with community revitalizations and making sure our mom and pop businesses, those really small micro loans, are getting the training and technical assistance that they need to get the capital so that they can continue to grow and pass that wealth down to their kids for generations. I mean, to own a business is amazing. And often, in our communities, we don't always have the information or know where to go to get the information. So continuing to build a platform where people can hear about us. I'm talking with the team right now that I want to make sure that I'm talking to some of the churches, and going back into the community and getting to know the other nonprofits who are working to rebuild some of these neighborhoods and making sure that we're at the table, letting them know that, there is a resource here. Sometimes we have grants, as one of your associates mentioned earlier, that they were successful in getting financing through LiftFund. There's so much that we have to offer. And so making sure that people know that we're here, spreading the word, and just making sure that the people have access to us easily. And that's my goal. I want to make sure they know who we are. We're here across every neighborhood that I think will certainly benefit. I want to be a part of that.
Yeah. Making a lot of noise, huh?
Oh, yeah.
Waving the flag.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you have several constituents out there, right? Publics, if you will, or audiences that you have to serve. Mm-hmm. One will be the professionals you get to work with and around. What's your management style? What's your leadership style?
I try to be very inclusive. I'm not so much of a top-down giving directions. I like to listen from the bottom up, because often those individuals who are doing the work can actually advise me on how to make sure I'm asking for the right products and services so that they can deliver what we need. I believe in working with a team setting. My style is, and maybe my directive is that, I'm not the only one contributing to LiftFund's success. There's a lot of people, divisions, managers, who actually play a more critical role than I, making sure that we're delivering the products and services on the ground. So having their opinions, their experiences, I think is really, really important. And so for me, I often, I think the team sometimes is a little off, because I'm like, tell me what's on your mind. Tell me what's working. Don't hesitate. I think people say, oh, but she's the CEO. I can't really say that to her. And I'm like, no, really. At the end of the day, we're in this together. I may be the face, and I often say I don't necessarily like all of that spotlight, because at the end of the day, there's 100 people behind me who's making it work. I just happen to be the one that you called, but at the end of the day, I would have all of them right here with me, acknowledging them and making sure people know that we are here to serve, because that's what we do. And so it might be cumbersome for some folks, but I find it very endearing. I like everybody's involvement and opinion.
It takes a team to be successful nowadays as a leader.
Yeah,
it really does. And you're really kind of the highest level of servanthood, if you will, because you're serving all those folks. I like to ask this question, it's a leadership question here. Would you consider yourself to be method driven or results oriented?
I'm probably results oriented. I don't like, I like to see the outcome. You know, I want to see the impact that I'm having.
Yeah.
You know, I realize sometimes it may take a minute to get there, but I'd rather take the time, pay my dues, and see the impact that I'm having on people's lives or the number of businesses that I'm able to help. So, yeah, I'm probably a little more impact driven.
Yeah, good. We're here with Miss Laurie Vignaud. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back.
In the heartland of America, a remarkable woman was born into a large family, destined to share her wisdom with the world. Her name? Thelma J. Love. From her humble beginnings in a small town, Thelma's journey became a tapestry of love, loss, triumphs, and trials. Each thread, each chapter contributing to her perfectly imperfect masterpiece. Through heartbreak, loss, and the hardships of life, she faced her trials head on. And she emerged victorious, finding her true identity and power within her own perfect imperfection. Inspired by powerful stories of women like Michelle Obama, Maya Angelou, and Oprah Winfrey, Thelma now urges you to embrace your story, own it, and turn it into your strength, to become the author of your own destiny. Thelma's memoir is not just a book, it's a beacon, illuminating the path for others to walk in their authentic selves. For you to rise above your circumstances and choose to be a victor, not a victim. Thelma J. Love's A Perfectly Imperfect Masterpiece is available now on all major online retailers. Join her on this remarkable journey. And together, let's create a legacy of love, hope, and infinite possibilities. Your story is waiting. Are you ready to write it? A Perfectly Imperfect Masterpiece by Thelma J. Love. Available now.
Laurie, welcome back.
Thank you.
And we've enjoyed having you here. Some final questions. First and foremost, you have a slew of accomplishments and awards from various groups and organizations. What's it feel like to be recognized by so many organizations? And what would you say is your proudest achievement?
Oh, wow. I have been blessed with many, many moments of recognition, and I'm so grateful. Probably the one that stands out the most for me is my Laurie Vignaud Day, April 11th. And what makes it so special, it was the city of Houston, it was the U.S. Congress, it was the state of Texas. They all came together and provided me with recognition for the work that I had been doing in the community, in the state of Texas in particular, around community development and community engagement.
That's fantastic.
And so that, and my mom and my aunt and my grandmother was with me. They all came to Houston for the event, and just to see the room of people that actually showed up in the city council chambers to celebrate this with me was incredibly overwhelming. And so when I think back, that's probably the moment that stands out the most for me.
Outstanding.
Yeah, it was pretty cool.
That's great. And it's nice to be recognized by groups and others. And
Yeah.
I don't have a holiday yet, Laurie. I'm working on that one.
I
Yeah.
have to remind my daughters, 4/11, 4/11, my day.
That's outstanding. Final question. We have the privilege of interviewing a lot of leaders on this show. We've all kind of agreed and concluded there's one thing they all have in common. Leaders are readers. They're always reading something.
Yeah.
Their go-to book typically is found in their nightstand, but sometimes it can be in their purse. What book are you reading, Laurie?
And I happen to have my book with me. My daughter sent this to me probably when I first started my job with LiftFund. It says, start with why, how great leaders inspire everyone to take action. And what's interesting is that if we all think about why we're doing something, even on a personal level, it kind of provides it kind of guides why you're doing something. Why is it important to you?
Yeah.
And getting my team to also appreciate the whys in their life and why does it matter to them and why are they doing this, et cetera. So I just started it, so I'm getting into the book, but this one has got my attention right now. I will say that the other book that I'm reading, and surprisingly, it has been a challenging book for me to read, is Project 1619. And I started reading that one a couple of months ago, actually. Yeah. But I had to stop because I kept crying. When
yeah,
in this state where we're being told what we should read, what we should know, and we're not being taught history. It just and if you don't know your history, you're bound to repeat it, and to think that a lot of things that happened in 1600s, 1700s, you're in the year 2000, and some of that is manifesting itself in a different way. And so that's another book I would highly recommend people to read. So I usually have 2 or 3 books that I'm reading at the same time because sometimes I've got to change and regroup a little bit. But
I too read a book about why before, and there was a saying that the reason you need a why when you pursue anything, one is you need to be motivated for what the purpose of it is. But 2, when you hit a hardship, and a lot of times you will, you'll need something to remind you why you're doing it.
Exactly.
Why are you even busy doing that? So
why I'm here.
Absolutely. Thank you for coming on the show today.
It's been a pleasure, Cedric.
And we met you. We wish you so much success. And if there's anything we can do for you to help you out moving into our grand city here, just give us a holler.
I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Laurie.
Thank you.
If this is your first time joining us and you'd like more information, you could find us at influencesa.com. That's INFLUENCESA.com. Like us on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Pinterest. And for this particular episode of the show, all future and past episodes of the show, pull up your YouTube search bar, toss in San Antonio's Influence Magazine Show. That word is critical. Get that word in there. When you get there, please subscribe, give us a like or a thumbs up, and hit that bell so that you don't miss any future episodes of the show.